think the major challenge that faces us as Christians now is living our Christian principles in the face of diversity. We experience a whole breadth of diversity, whether it's religion, sexual orientation, political views. They're the main things that keep prodding at us every day. It's very easy to say I'm a Christian, I love everyone and I interact with everyone and I want to have cohesion, I want to have forgiveness. But when you're put into the realm of dealing with this breadth of diversity, that's when then I think we're called to task. Am I really able to love everyone? Am I really able to accept the person while I reject what he or she may stand for or what he or she does? And that's an incredibly difficult distinction to make as a Christian, because when you deal with a person as the image and likeness of God, you deal with that part of that person that is very similar to myself and similar to everybody else. But when you deal with what the person does, that's his or her choice. What the person says, likewise. So dealing with the image and likeness of God, as opposed to the personal decisions and choices we make.
Well, I think for Christians in Britain, there are different kinds of diversity that we're getting used to. There is cultural diversity, ethnic diversity, linguistic diversity, and that's been quite a challenge for Christians in what was traditionally a fairly homogeneous society. And we've learnt to rejoice in that, really, to see diversity as something of a sign of God's blessing on that level. And then there is religious diversity, which of course is often linked with cultural diversity or ethnic diversity, but raises a whole lot of other issues to us. What does the presence of Muslims, Hindus, Jews, Buddhists, Sikhs, people of other faiths in our country mean for us in God's purposes? But I think we need to approach that issue of diversity with the same confidence, the same trust in God, and the same expectation that we'll find out new things from it as we've approached ethnic diversity and cultural diversity. So I rejoice in it.
I think there's some wonderful opportunities for personal growth by trying to work out what it is that is so different about what it is that you believe and what it is that the other believes, and why it is you believe what it is you do. Obviously, we all like to think that our view is the right view. It's something intrinsic in us that we think that we're the right and everyone else is slightly strange. The truth is that we're all creatures of our upbringing and the world around us. And when we come to a multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic community, folk are coming with a diverse range of experiences, a diverse range of backgrounds, a tradition that has come to them through the centuries as well, which impacts their way of adapting to 21st century life in a cosmopolitan country. I think there are so many things at play there that to be able to listen, to be able to think through what the other is saying and why they're saying it, why they do what they do, and analyze again why it is we say and do what we do, I think is a very healthy way to be. Someone once said the unexamined life isn't worth living. Well, we've got more opportunity to examine our own lives from so many different perspectives that actually life can be extremely worth living and the richer for it.
I think Christians should be very thankful that we live in such a richly diverse world and increasingly diverse communities. It's a way of Christians being able to both look at their faith and to find out why they think what they do and put it into words that they can share and exchange with those who don't know the same sorts of things or what it is that they believe. So in that sort of sense, it sharpens up the Christian mind, I think, to allow one to be more reflective and clearer in presentation of faith.
We now need to also understand not just people of religions, but people who do not have a religion, or maybe their religion isn't something which is orthodox. So I feel that the challenge is now far greater because of the society which we live in. We find that there's a whole there's a landscape which is a completely different landscape to before, and this is why I think that the interfaith landscape is important, because it just doesn't cover religion, but I think it covers all forms of ideology and belief. And in the modern day world, you are exposed to that, various different ideologies, various different understandings, and in a pluralistic society, what you're also seeing is that the term tolerance now has a different meaning to it. But I think for us to progress really does require us to educate ourselves and to have patience with one another, because without that I don't think we'll be able to understand one another. And if we don't understand one another, then life becomes very difficult where we live.
The Christian experience traditionally of hospitality should be an extremely important one. I mean, I find it very much so when I go along to a Muslim community or a Hindu community, that they are always very hospitable. When I go along to a Christian church, whatever denomination of church it is, I sometimes don't even get offered a cup of tea or a glass of water. We seem to have lost a little bit of that tradition of hospitality. So we're learning from other people about hospitality. But I think it's being hospitable, but also reaching out to people, finding out about them. You know, we can't, going back to the analogy of the restaurant, we can walk past the Lebanese restaurant every day and say, I'm not going in there because they're foreign, or we can say, I wonder what they've got to offer, and perhaps go and taste their ware. And when you find out that you enjoy Lebanese food, you might go back again, especially when you found out that they've also been welcoming. It has to always be an attitude of hospitality, of welcome, of reaching out, of making the stranger welcome in your society.
I mean, I think anytime you meet somebody new, your life changes. Your ideas change, a different perspective opens up. Any kind of encounter that we have with somebody different from ourselves, we are going to change. And sometimes people are very comfortable where they are and they're afraid of change, and they don't want that to happen. I think it's about knowing our pastoral responsibility to the community around us. It's not about keeping the church as some kind of closed door kind of thing, but about allowing our churches to be the spiritual hearth and heart of our communities. And if we're going to do that, then we have to know our communities. We have to know the people that are out there. We have to know the guy who runs the corner shop and who runs the pharmacy and who sweeps the streets and picks up the rubbish. We have to know our neighbours and, you know, what it is that makes them tick.
We can't deny there are challenges. There are most certainly a lot of challenges, and they seem to be increasing as time is going on. Because if you look at the last 50 years in the sort of homogenous culture of this country, Christian, white, practicing country, it's changed quite significantly. We've had various immigrants coming in. With the immigrations come different faiths. And if I was a practicing Christian, I probably wouldn't recognise the country, certainly in some areas of the country. So in that sense, it's challenging for people, and even the people that have entered this country, it's challenging for them because they're adapting to a new society, a new country, a new culture. We're all quite focused in our areas, so that you've got the Jewish community living in sort of their areas in North London, you've got the Muslim community, and there's a lot of segregation, and I think that's the main challenge, is that how much are we actually integrating on a daily basis within each of our communities.
I think how Christians should react to diversity and how Christians should react to everything is to look at what Jesus did and reflect on how he was a product of our diverse society. Jesus tells the story of the Good Samaritan, and the Samaritans feature in a number of encounters that Jesus has. And that's very significant. These people who were different, who were a problem to mainstream Orthodox Jewish religion, were demeaned, and Jesus reacted to them positively. So there's some good parallels there, picking up how Jesus talked about the Samaritans, the Good Samaritan particularly, and engaged with Good Samaritans. And I gave a talk in the mosque once after sharing the story of the Good Samaritan, and I said that in some ways Muslims are Samaritans in our society.